loud. Amazing. We're being recorded, everyone.
Love it. Let me know when you'd like me to start admitting.
Not yet.
Yes.
Oh, I
No.
guess it's almost time. It's almost time.
Almost.
There's someone named Ashley Sealer.
Yes. Should we
If you
admit
could
her?
let her in, that'd be great. And I can make changes to these slides even while you're presenting on a different slide, can't I?
Yes.
Because I want to
That's
go
the beauty.
talk about that. Yes. Okay.
And Judith, oh, she's not connected yet. I admitted her
Okay.
back. And I see an AI notes thing from somebody I don't
Yeah,
know. So I'm
absolutely.
going to disable it. Bye-bye.
And I'll, so now the question is, can I share my screen? Is
If you are a co-host, you should be able to.
the thing. And
Yes, you'll be able to
otherwise
share your
you're just
screen.
going to have the slide deck, right?
As long as we're using the same slide deck.
We should be doing that, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm in the one that you're in.
Is it called MNIPL Quarterly Community Offering Spring 2025?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Wait.
happy to share it if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think if you share it, that'd be great.
Okay, great.
Leanna just logged on. Should I admit her?
Yes,
Who?
let's admit. Hi, Judy. We admitted you early. Thanks for listening to us get combobulated. Let's admit Jim Bear and Leanna, and then in a moment we'll admit everybody else.
Fabulous.
I can hear the sounds of Lyra going to bed, which is both soothing and distracting.
Beanie.
Yeah, little bean.
Beanie.
All right, Jim Bear, hello. Thank you for being here.
Yes, absolutely. Hello.
Hello. And Leanna, hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, bonjour, Liz. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I'm really excited for this time we have. We're going to admit folks. I'll run the agenda. I'll be the MC. Oh, yes. Before we do that, Sara.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Leanna, I thought you were maybe going to be on here. And then I was seeing on the agenda that your name wasn't there. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to describe the Wild Rice Act. And then I was quickly doing that. But now you're here. And are you actually describing the Wild Rice Act?
I think I'm reporting back from the rally, correct?
Yes. Oh, I forgot to put your name under that part of the agenda. Yes, you're reporting back on Rise and Repair.
Okay, so there's this part where I just threw together a slide and I was like, okay, but shall I go to you at that point? Or would you rather me just kind of do it? I think I should go to you, Leanna, if you're going to be on at that point in the night. And if that doesn't work for you, that's okay.
Yeah, I can do that. I do have a small section in here talking about like what is the next step to help move forward the Wild Rice Act. So if that works.
Oh, well, that's great. So then I will just like, as Leanna talked about, dum da dum da dum. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Let's admit the people.
Here we go.
Amazing. Let's share some music. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Here we go. Oh, it is not working for some reason. That's odd. Let's try again. I was going to have this very smooth welcome with music. Which is, oh, there it is. There it is. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I am so glad you are here tonight. Settle in, get comfy. This music is not working the way I thought it would on my computer. Why is it playing downstairs in my house? You know what? Sometimes tech just doesn't go the way you think it will. You are going to settle in to the amazing sounds of Billy Porter singing For What It's Worth, which is a track I love and I will share with you someday. Apparently not right now. So welcome. It's really good to be together. My name is Liz Loeb. I use she and her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director of Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light and the Climate Justice Commons. I'm here on Dakota land in my home in Northeast Minneapolis, where I live with my spouse, Sara, and our toddler, Lyra. You might hear Lyra trying to go to bed in the background. It's the most beautiful form of chaos. I'm so grateful for it. Can you all hear me okay? Amazing. I will be our guide, our MC, our facilitator for the evening. We have an hour and 15 minutes together. Friends, it is wild times out there in the world, and we have the challenge and the privilege of navigating those times together. I'm sure many of us are arriving in so many different states, in so many ways of being, with different impacts that are landing on us and our families. And tonight we're here to take action together. And I'm so glad for that. So to help move us into our time, please feel free to use the chat, ask questions, talk to each other, talk to me. I'm here with a bunch of amazing folks. I'm here with Sara Thakis, who's the MNIPL office manager. I'm here with Sara Wolff, who is our policy director. I'm here with Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs, who serves on our board, and Leanna Goose, who is one of the most amazing organizers I've ever met. And we're all here to talk to you, to answer questions, to make meaning together, to find our way through to connection. So please use the chat. Let me know if you have a question or want to offer a reflection. Our agenda for tonight, we'll be hearing from Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs a little bit about this moment and what we might be experiencing collectively, what the stakes are in this moment in time for our climate justice movement. We'll hear from Leanna Goose about the Rise and Repair rally that we had last week at the state capitol and our work to protect wild rice. I'll give you a very quick overview of MNIPL's current working campaigns, and then the bulk of our time will be hearing from Sara about policy initiatives and the concrete action we can take to make a difference in the place where we live, which I'm so excited about. And then we will send you off with some action items. You'll get a juicy recap email that has a summary and a toolkit and a recording, and we'll take it from there. Any questions to start? Anything that needs to be said as we ease in together? Amazing. Well, I'm just gonna take a little breath, fill my lungs, and release, and just know that I'm present here with all of you. And with that, I turn it over to Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs. Jim Bear is one of the co-directors of the racial justice work at the Minnesota Council of Churches. He is a teacher and a mentor and one of the most glorious people I know, and somebody who takes so seriously the charge that we learn from one another and that we learn from the land. So with that, I will turn it to my friend Jim Bear.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be present in this moment with you all. I admit I just doing a quick little self-assessment and check-in. I'm feeling kind of jazzed and kind of hyped up. I was in a gathering this afternoon along with Sara Wolff, meeting with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, really just spending some time with our representative to highlight the urgency that we are feeling, but also to lend whatever energy, support, good prayers out there. As I will say, in my opinion, Representative Omar has certainly, throughout her political career, taken some very bold stands in the face of really incredible opposition. And so, not only time this afternoon to say, we really need you to step it up, but also to say, we recognize that you have stepped it up and you have been showing up. And thank you. You have our gratitude. But I just want to take a moment to bring us into this virtual space, to invite your participation and your engaged interaction with MNIPL tonight, with Rise and Repair, with the Wild Rice initiatives. And, maybe for you, this is a new endeavor for you. Maybe the mild or intense sense of panic since November, and certainly since Inauguration Day, has activated you in such a way that you, maybe for the first time in your life, are saying, I need to do something, I need to be involved. To that I say, welcome. There is space for you in this movement. Maybe you are an old veteran of the movement, like many of us are. Maybe you've been incredibly active in a number of social justice, eco-justice, environmental justice circles over years and years and decades. Maybe you are feeling renewed, or maybe you're feeling like, seriously, this is what we're facing after all of the momentum and all of the work that we have built over the years. And it feels like it can all be undone with the stroke of a pen from a madman 1,000 miles away. I validate all of those feelings. I invite you in. There is space for you. There is space for your big voice and big energy. There is space for your weary heart. There is space for you. We welcome you. I cannot overstate the sense of urgency that I am feeling right now. But I also recognize that, I was going to say it's funny, but there's really nothing about this moment that is funny. Very shortly after George Floyd was murdered in 2020, and I again felt a renewed sense of urgency into social justice, and particularly racial justice. Someone gave me a gift to just kind of honor my dedication to various movements, my dedication to uplifting the humanity of all of our relatives. And the gift was a poster. And in the poster, it depicted an Indigenous woman with her fist raised in the air in defiance. And the caption on the poster just simply said, "We the resilient have been here before." And I'm really feeling that sentiment there is a sense of urgency. There is an incredible sense of foreboding about what is happening and what could happen. And this sense that all that has been built over decades and generations can be undone, and it will take decades and generations again to build back. But in my heart, I see that Indigenous grandmother on the front lines of whatever movement that she was called to, raising her fist in the air and giving us the reminder that we have been here before. We have suffered, we have survived, we are suffering now, and we will survive. So I want to express my gratitude to Liz and Sara and the others who are really giving so much of themselves to build a better future for my children, for their children. I express my gratitude. And to all who are joining us, I invite you into this moment. I invite you into this space with open hearts, ready spirits, and above all, wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, in this circle, there is space for you. We invite you in. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jim Bear. I feel like every time I hear you speak, I can just feel the molecules expanding a little bit in the air around us, and it's the most delicious sensation, especially and even in hard times. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to invite Leanna Goose to speak with us and to tell us about the Rise and Repair rally that we hosted as a huge coalition at the state capitol last week, and to tell us a little bit more about our work to protect wild rice. I could say so much about Leanna and the incredible energy and commitment that she puts into the world. And I also just want to set the stage for her to tell the story of these past couple of weeks in our movement, and past couple of centuries, because it is intertwined. So Leanna, I turn it over to you with so much gratitude.
Thank you. So bonjour, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. And I also want to extend a huge thank you to Liz for inviting me to speak, and a huge thank you to everyone who attended the rally. So the Rise and Repair rally was focused on the Rise and Repair platform, calling for legislative action that moves us towards climate justice and the protection of Indigenous rights. So these two issues are deeply interconnected. Indigenous peoples have lived in harmony with these lands for generations without destroying them. And now is the time that we need to look to Indigenous wisdom to help us live in a good relationship with the land around us, which can also help to pull us out of the climate crisis. Upholding Indigenous rights is essential to achieving true climate justice and restoring balance to our planet. The platform is focused on advancing real effective solutions to the climate crisis, including supporting land back initiatives, protecting wild rice and fresh water, and promoting electronic waste recycling, among many other important items of legislation. And at the same time, it works to resist false solutions like carbon capture, nuclear power, and hydroelectricity. Additionally, legislation emerging from this alliance seeks to oppose extractive projects that would harm Minnesota's land, air, and water. This alliance is made up of many different environmental, Indigenous, and faith organizations working together to build a movement to advance climate justice and Indigenous rights. And with the federal administration moving to undo critical environmental protections and regulations every day, the need for bold state level action has never been more urgent. So the day at the Capitol began at Christ on Capitol Hill Church. We shared coffee, snacks, and had really good morning conversations, setting a positive tone for what was ahead. And then we transitioned into a small workshop focused on effective lobbying for the issues at hand. And my morning started with back-to-back meetings with legislators, and I was fortunate to meet with both Senator Steve Green and Representative Matt Bliss. And we had productive conversations about the key items on our platform, making sure our lawmakers were well informed on the issues that we wanted them to support and oppose. We walked through the entire platform with both legislators, offering strong statements on the importance of each and every issue. And they were open to listening. And in return, they explained their perspectives, including potential concerns they saw with them. So while we didn't agree on everything, we did find areas of common ground where we could connect and understand each other. And it was incredibly helpful to have others in the room who understood the issues deeply. And we were able to support each other and keep the focus on the key matters that we care about, ensuring that our discussions remain centered on the important work we are trying to advance. The march to the Capitol was powerful and moving, accompanied by the rhythm of drums and culminating in a beautiful round dance. And the rally in the Capitol Rotunda was equally impactful, with passionate voices coming together to address the critical issues at hand. Great grandmother Mary Lyons opened the space with a heartfelt message. Senator Mary Kunesh and Representative Alex Falconer spoke about the Wild Rice Act, highlighting the urgent need to protect the sacred plant and the waters that sustain not only Monoman, but also our communities here in Minnesota. Speakers covered a wide range of pressing topics, from electronic waste recycling to opposing the lifting of the nuclear moratorium. The event also drew media attention, amplifying the message to a wider audience. And following the rally, there were additional meetings with legislators, and the total amount of meetings that took place was around 70. And I'm pleased to say that this rally was highly successful, especially in terms of the Wild Rice Act. 2 new sponsors signed on to support the Wild Rice Act after the rally, so good job, guys. And another just joined in the Senate today. And this progress is a testament to the power and impact of our efforts. After the rally, we asked participants to fill out a survey to share their experiences and also to provide feedback on how the meetings with legislators went. And this survey, thank you guys for filling that out. It gives us valuable insights to identify the key factors needed to successfully pass the items on our platform. And we are so grateful to everyone who took the time to fill out the follow-up form. There was some really good information in there on whether or not the lawmaker supported the items on our platform, and it's really going to help us create a strategy going forward. So I just want to also talk about how, even though the rally day was highly successful, our collective work is not over. We must continue to apply pressure and ensure our voices are heard every step of the way this session. It's a really important session. So we have bills that have yet to go through hearings. For instance, the Wild Rice Act, which will protect wild rice and the waters that bring us life, has been introduced in the Senate and the House, but has not gotten a hearing. And the deadline to get through these hearings is April 4th. So it is really critical that we keep this positive momentum up. The 100% electronic waste recycling bill has passed through hearings in the Senate, and it's been really hopeful and beautiful to watch, but it has yet to been given a hearing in the House. So we really, really need to keep this pressure up, and we can do this by sending emails to committee chairs and asking them to give the bills on our platform a hearing. And another way to stay engaged is with the weekly newsletter that is sent out, which will keep us updated on actions we can take to maintain the momentum we've built. Let's keep pushing for positive change and ensure that Minnesota leads the way in fighting climate change and protecting Indigenous rights. Miigwech to everyone for your support. I deeply appreciate all the hard work that everyone is putting in to keep Minnesota leading the way. In the face of challenges at the national level, it's crucial that we continue to support one another and stay engaged. This moment will require resistance and strength. And I want to remind all of you that we are stronger when we stand together. Miigwech, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leanna. I just listening, the sense, there's just I have such a clear sense of possibility, which is not to be naive about the difficulty of the context we're in, but there is so much possibility for what we can do, especially when we come together and are clear with our message and our actions. I'm wondering, Leanna, would you be open to a couple minutes of questions and comments from folks?
Yeah, certainly.
Fabulous. So folks who have joined us, folks who are listening, I'm curious if you have questions, reflections, comments, anything you want to ask Leanna, anything you want to know about our work to protect wild. Oh, amazing hands. I love it. Tom, I see your hand.
Thanks for the update, Leanna. Who was the senator that signed on?
Beta, I believe. I just looked at it today, and also in the House there was another author added. I will have to look at that one again.
Yeah, I know the landscape is
Yeah.
kind of shifting as we go.
Yeah, so Norris was just added today, and that's in the House. And then, yeah, Senator Feta was added, yes, today as well. Yeah, so there's a lot happening, and
There's a lot
that's from
happening.
the amazing collective work of everyone who helps to support the Alliance space, and I deeply appreciate it. We're in such a critical moment, and it's really going to take all of us.
Judy, I see your hand.
Yeah, is there a number for the wild rice bill?
Yep, it's Senate File 1247.
Okay.
And then the House file is 2134. House file 2134.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Paula, yes.
Hi, thanks. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand on here. I'm really glad to hear about the nuclear moratorium component, and I'd like to know more about that. And maybe Sara is going to speak about that too. But I happen to know Maria Isa, forgetting her last name. But I spoke to her recently about that, and she really needed more information. And I think a lot of younger people who didn't grow up in the anti-nuclear movement don't have a clue about how dangerous nuclear power is and are susceptible. So I'm really glad to hear, and I'd like to learn more about what you guys are saying about that. And I'm curious if anyone happened to meet with her, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And so the nuclear moratorium is being proposed to be lifted. And they're calling it clean energy. That's what the Republicans called it when we met with them. And so in order to run that nuclear facility, there is mining of uranium that takes place. And that has been extremely harmful to Indigenous nations across the United States. And also nuclear facilities are really expensive to build, like takes a massive amount of money and resources. And as we've seen with Fukushima, there's climate disasters happening more often. And to think that this is safe is just ridiculous. I mean, there was just a tritium leak into the water right next to that plant. And I think we have to let our lawmakers know we are not in support of lifting the nuclear moratorium. It is We have better sources of clean energy, truly clean energy, and we need to ensure that Minnesota invests in that. So thank you for that really good question, Paula.
And just to say, former State Senator Patricia Torres-Ray is leading our inside game work with legislators, and I know that Representative Issa is on her list.
Just real quickly, the storage of the spent nuclear rods is a long-term huge problem to have enough cask storage if they're going to allow Monticello to expand and continue. I mean, it's the long-term storage is major because there's no place to store the nuclear waste nationally.
Yeah, thank you for that, Judy. Yeah, it remains like radioactive for like generations. So like it will be a problem our grandchildren will have to deal with. So thank you for mentioning that too, Miigwech.
Not to mention the possibility of meltdowns like almost happened at 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
And Chernobyl and all that.
Or attacks on them, yes.
And something we're seeing, and Sara will talk more about this, are people who hope to benefit financially from the exploitation of our resources in our communities are trying to brand really harmful energy developments as clean energy. Our frame is so compelling that they're taking it and using it for super bad ideas. And so part of our challenge is how to stay in a frame that is meaningful to people and speaks to people's lives and is really clear about the options we have for truly renewable and sustainable energy and what it means when folks are trying to profit off of harm to communities through false solutions. So I'm stealing Sara's thunder because I feel like this is you bring this insight to every meeting, to every policy conversation, and I see it every time we have the opportunity to talk to people about their reactions. So before I turn it to Sara, which I will, and we have time to get into all of this, I was going to do a whole overview of MNIPL's work. I also know that most people on this call are familiar with MNIPL's work and with our campaigns. So I'd actually rather spend a few more minutes hearing from you and hearing any more of your questions and reflections so that we have a chance to talk to each other. And then we'll shift towards Sara's section, which will be a little more technical and also have some real-time action steps we can take. So any other questions, thoughts, ideas to offer? Was anyone here able to be part of the Rise and Repair rally? David, what was that experience like for you, if you're open to sharing?
Sure, it was incredible.
Oh,
Our one of our representatives, Alex Falconer, is a co-sponsor of the Wild Rice Bill, so that was great, and we had a chance to meet with him. But making just a lot of new contacts. There was a small group of people that met with Alex, and with 2 exceptions, the other 5 people were new to me. So, as has been said before, really nice to be in this together. I really appreciated the handout we had front and back of the bills that MNIPL are supporting and the bills being opposed. And then we had a chance to talk about which ones we'd emphasize, because it's hard to go through 25 bills with a representative, at least effectively. So it was a fun process to have our group try to hone down and say, well, which would be the ones that we'd want Alex and others to pay most attention to. And they include the bills that have already been mentioned. E-waste and nuclear moratorium, et cetera.
yeah, thank you, David. I really appreciate hearing that. Anyone else who feels moved to speak or ask a question? Don, yes, you'll be our last person.
I was just looking at the list of the different bills that Rise and Repair has suggested that support, oppose, and following, and the e-waste bill is not on the list. So I
It's
think
on
that,
there. It's 1690. I think it's not called e-waste bill. It's called something a little bit similar, but yeah, it's on there.
okay, thank you.
Fabulous. Well, I think with that, I will turn it over to Sara. Sara has been a stalwart and brilliant leader of our policy work at MNIPL and the Climate Justice Commons. I feel so lucky to work with her every day. I learn something every time I talk to her. It's fantastic. Sara, would you like me to start sharing slides, or do you want to tell me when you want a slide? I think you're muted, Sara.
Thanks. I love how intimate this group is. So
Yeah.
I think maybe in a couple minutes I'll have you start with slide 10 when I get to that climate backtracker slide, and then we can get
Perfect.
into it.
Perfect.
But yeah, thanks for those of you who participated and who have been participating in so many ways, just not just the Rise and Repair Rally Day, but sending emails and doing outreach and arranging meetings with Tina Smith's office. Thank you, Dawn. And, so many of you are doing those things, and it's a joy to get to work with you. I always feel underprepared in these moments because there's so much to talk about, but I feel a little buoyed by you that we can go through some issues and that you will ask questions when you want to and help fill in the spaces of the questions and actions that we're all holding together. So thanks so much for that. I guess the frame I wanted to talk about tonight is really looking at what's happening at a federal level and understanding that that's also happening in some ways at a state level. If we look at what's happening with the White House, what we are seeing is how money and acquiescence buys power and access. And many of you likely heard the stories about how tech billionaires, it's a new class of super billionaires, were in full force at Trump's inauguration. And if we go down a partial list, it's Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, Google and Apple and Elon Musk. And we're seeing the influence they have. And we also know another category of industry holds a lot of influence, and that is the oil and gas industry and the fossil fuel industry. And we know that back during the campaign, Trump was very clear about if they could support him with $1 billion, that they would have every regulation rolled back. And he has been good on his word for that. And so we are seeing this massive set of deregulation and rollbacks happen. And we're also being told that it is really important that we shrink the federal workforce and we shrink the programs that serve people in our country. And why? It's critical to do that to extend a tax break that was instituted in 2017. And we need to extend that into the future. And therefore, we really have to make these massive cuts. And so what are we seeing? We are seeing these mass firings from the Forest Service to the scientific laboratories. We're told to expect that there will probably be 1,000 firings from the EPA's science division alone, up to 75% of its workforce. We're seeing the withdrawal of US aid across the world, which we know is costing lives. And we're seeing congressional spending commitments that will likely require spending cuts to Medicaid. And we should all understand that these cuts to Medicaid are cuts to real people, but also to the systems of medicine that we have in place in this country that have been built to serve anyone, regardless of how they pay for their medical care. And so we're seeing this playbook that is hard to see every day. But it's also happening in Minnesota. And so while we feel less able to impact what's happening at a federal level, we can really be aware of what's happening in these same ways in Minnesota, even if it doesn't wield a chainsaw while it's doing it here. What we're seeing is that there are always bills that will help the already rich get richer and will help them try to hide what they're doing in the process so that we're not as aware of what they're gaining. So this is a playbook where the wealthiest companies ask for more simply because they can. And so I wanted to share a few examples with you of what we're seeing through the legislative session this year. I plan to talk, just briefly about data centers, about rollbacks to renewables, and what I mean by that is talking about that nuclear moratorium repeal, and also just briefly touching on what we're seeing with proposals for carbon capture. And then I wanted to be sure that we talk a little bit about the proactive things we're doing. It's not all defense. There's this amazing work that Leanna has been doing. And we have some exciting work on insurance that I just want to quickly share with you too. And then take some action together. Since we're here, this is great. If that feels okay, one of the first slides though that I wanted to share, and I have to thank my colleague Ashley Sealer, who found this as we were trying to get a grip on what's happening at a national level. And this is the slide 10, and I want to tune you into it if you may already know about it. And there are lots of different institutions that are trying to track what's going on, but I'm really liking this thing called the Climate Backtracker. And it is from Columbia's Law School's Climate School. And we are going to send follow-up resources to you. And Ashley's probably going to throw this link to the Climate Backtracker into the chat now. But it really is like the list of what did they do on this day and how does that roll that rulemaking, what agency did it come from, and that kind of thing. So it's a great resource. Yeah, well, one of the things that has happened in the last year is that we're hearing more about data centers. We know that some of these data centers are being built right now. Meta has a data center that is of a large, massive scale that's being built in Farmington. It's in process of being built. But we're also seeing other developers come from out of state and propose data centers in other communities. So there are 10 different proposals in Dakota County and many others across the state. And so sometimes you know who's proposing the data center and who would like to use it. And sometimes it's a developer and you don't know who wants to end up using it. And the developer is just trying to make it as attractive as possible for whoever the end user is to come. And so they will do things like get the land, get the permits, get the rights to use the water, and these kinds of things without having much transparency or community involvement or engagement in knowing what's happening. So there are a number of issues with that, but Liz, if you would go to the next slide for me, which is just pretty much a blank slide talking about the data centers issue. So it's a growing issue. We know proposals are coming, and we know the proposals are, you're exactly where you want to be, Liz, perfect. Or we know that it is something that the industry is then looking to legislators for as well. And on the next slide, there are just a couple of examples of the bills that we're seeing that are industry-driven bills regarding data centers. The first one is about allowing backup generators that data centers need to provide power should they need it, to bypass PUC certificate of need processes. And so this is a bill that's just basically saying, we'd like to not have a lot of scrutiny around what we're doing if we're not connecting to the grid. We should know that the PUC actually made a decision about 2 weeks ago that said, no, it is important to still have review of these backup generator processes. But the legislative bill would be an end run around that. Another bill is designed to provide tax exemptions that exist far into the future, and also to make them less transparent to the public. Of course, that's not how they describe the bill. And here's where I'll just share a little bit about data center law, which I, of course, knew nothing about until all of this came about. But what happens when they talk about wanting to extend a tax cut or a tax exemption is you realize, oh, they have a tax exemption. And that was put in place in 2011 when data centers looked a lot different. They might have just been part of one business's functioning, but they were new. And in 2011, Minnesota said, we are going to give data centers tax exemption from the equipment they use, like the hardware, the software they use, and from the electricity that they use. Well, back in 2011, that didn't add up necessarily to that much. Now we are talking about data centers that are 25 times the size of a Target complex. And the hardware that they use needs to be exchanged out every 3 to 6 years. And the electricity needs they have are enormous. So these tax exemptions are into the hundreds of millions of dollars and projected to grow here as we look to the future. So I think what this moment calls for us to be aware of is, as the governor is putting forth a budget that asks for cuts to various things, we also know that we have these loopholes that we could pay attention to that would provide revenue for us. And so you and I pay a sales tax on our electricity. I looked it up. I didn't really pay attention to this, but last month I paid about $8 in sales tax for the electricity that my home used. You probably pay something similar, but the data center that's going to need so much electricity, doubling what we have in Minnesota, doesn't pay any sales tax on that. We know a lot more now than we did in 2011 about the shape of our aquifers and the diminishing resources those have, and the replenishment rates. We know more about what we need to do to be carbon free, and we know more about what data centers do to communities. And so that's all to say we need a comprehensive look at how we are treating data centers and evaluating them in Minnesota and what they provide. So these sets of bills that I have on the screen are bills that we're not in favor of. We anticipate some legislators coming forward with some legislation that we do support, that asks us to do a better job of providing guardrails around these projects and make sure they're good members of the community if they come. Liz, if I've already gone and expended over my whole time, you need to say like, okay, Sarah, and that's enough. Thank you. But I think that's
let me take a look at the agenda. I think we just want to, I'm looking at the timing. I think we should start moving toward, were you about to interrupt, Sarah?
Yeah. Well, why don't I just do the nuclear?
Oh, you can all see the agenda. Huh, funny.
Yeah, I love how, yeah, well, how about I go to the nuclear piece just for a moment, and then we'll do our joint actions. I was so glad to hear you bring up this issue, and I want to acknowledge that everyone is on the value of nuclear. right? We obviously have 2 nuclear facilities in Minnesota that are operating now, but we've had this moratorium on new nuclear facilities since 1994. And Liz, if you go down a couple of slides, there's this beautiful language that Owen found for a fact sheet that we will also put into the chat right now. He created this fact sheet with Nuke Watch, which is a marvelous resource, and that I want you all to have. But basically, the legislature said, you know what? Disposing of radioactive waste is not a problem that has been solved. And it's very, very expensive. And we don't want to pass that expense unnecessarily onto taxpayers and ratepayers. And so they put in place this nuclear moratorium. Liz mentioned this earlier, but it's worth repeating now. When we hear of utility providers wanting to pursue expensive options, expensive infrastructure options, natural gas plants, carbon capture mechanisms, nuclear facilities, we need to always remember that they make the bulk of their money on the infrastructure that they build, because they are guaranteed rates of return that are given to them based on that infrastructure. So the more expensive something is for them, the more they can make. And while we could have a very long discussion on nuclear, Liz will not let me tonight in this moment. But I want to share something that Vita, you put this in the chat early on. I'm so thankful you did. It was a stunning presentation that I've drawn from, and I was so thrilled to see it. The next slide speaks to, I think, one of the reasons, one of the frames in which we need to think about nuclear and whether it can help us in this climate moment that we're in. And that is that it takes an incredibly long time to build these projects. Mark, I can't believe I'm not remembering his name in this moment, professor and scientist.
Jacobson.
Thank you. Yes, Mark Jacobson put this slide together, which we've reproduced here, and he looked at the most recent nuclear facilities built around the world, and this chart shows you how long they took to plan and then to build. 23 years, 21 years, 18 years, 20 years, 17 years. Like, these things take a long time to put together. And I know that there is a lot of talk out there about how we can do it faster, but even if you put these times in half, we are looking a decade out. We are not looking a decade out. That's done quickly. And it can be done inexpensively. A chart that shows costs of nuclear, and it is Vita, is it 3 to 4 times as much as renewables? You can correct me on that, but it's often at least that. It's at least 3 or 4 times as expensive to go with nuclear. So these are a couple of the resources I wanted to have you to have. We'll put them in follow-up materials as we go. And I am going to just say 20 seconds of something about carbon capture. And we'll send out more resources, but carbon capture is one of those things that could, but when we try to mechanically do it for the purpose of capturing it, so it can be put in a pipeline that we build across state lines to take it to where oil drillers need it for enhanced oil recovery, it is not serving our climate purposes. Oh, thanks, Liz. But this is a little chart that shows what's the proposal that's happening in Minnesota is let's capture it off of the ethanol facility. Let's build pipelines through South Dakota to North Dakota. We'll put them 18 miles away from the oil drillers. And we know that oil drillers are desperate for carbon dioxide to help them get the oil that's hard to get out of the ground and get it out. So this is all to say there are a number of false solutions that are going on at the legislature and that we're working to raise awareness about. And we'll send you materials on all of these things. But I also wanted to just get back to the proactive things that we're doing. And Leanna then raised, has been leading on this for the last couple of years, the Wild Rice Protection Act. I think we have a fact sheet on this too that we're going to throw into the chat here. And she described it, but this is a moment where federally we have so much uncertainty. What we need to do is ensure we're doing everything we can at the state level to protect what's important to us. And so this is when I thought we'd go through the act of calling someone who needs to hear messages from us. And if you will be game for this, I thought we could all get out our phones and put ourselves on mute and call the governor. And call, and I'm suggesting we call about the Wild Rice Protection Act right now, just because I think the governor could use these messages. These are calls, you can always make calls to your legislators. But I had, instead of developing a complex document for you all to navigate, I thought, well, we can just call the governor right now. So the number is right there on the screen. It's 651-201-3400, and you will get an answering machine. And that's a great time to say, hi, my name is Richard, and I am from Richard, I'm not sure where you're from. And I wanted to leave a message that I hope the governor will do all he can to protect Minnesota's wild rice and support the Wild Rice Protection Act. And then there are 3 talking points there on your slide. And Liz, I don't know if you can hit the slideshow and make it bigger. If not, if people can see it, that's fine. I'll ask Ashley Sealer to just see if she can throw those those talking points into the chat. But does that feel okay to take a couple minutes and put yourself on the phone and make a phone call to support Leanna and this awesome bill that we're trying to pass? Thank you.
So it sounds like what we're going to do is take 5 minutes. We'll come back together at 8:01 p.m. Central Time. And we're all going to leave a message for the governor. And he's going to wake up tomorrow and say, wow, 25 people called me about wild rice. And I promise you, those calls matter. When somebody gets 25 calls about something like wild rice from constituents, it shifts the conversation in St. Paul. I have seen this happen over and over again.
Liz or Sarah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
The 3rd talking point just says support tribal and environmental. What does that, what's the rest of that?
What a good question you're asking. What? This is my this is just the funkiness of formatting and my screen share. So can you see it now? Support tribal and environmental efforts to restore wild rice habitats. And it's in the chat.
Great. Thank you.
Are folks feeling ready to come back together, or are some people still on the phone? I know the voicemail takes a minute to cycle through. I just did it and I was like, dun, 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 dun. And then I exceeded the maximum voicemail length. So I had to call again and leave a shorter message. Sara, I'm wondering, I mean, there might be some folks who are still calling or who are still finishing up. Sara, can you talk to us for just a few minutes about why these calls matter so much and the impact they have?
They do matter. And now, especially they matter when you call your legislator, which I would encourage you to do too. And in fact, we have more information about that too. But and you may have heard this before, but it's really true. The contacts they get from their constituents matter the most. Now, there are those contacts like it's a click this email, and those are helpful. What's even better though is when you make the time for a personal contact, like the call or an email that you send. Even if your email is 2 sentences long and it has misspellings in it, but it is from you as opposed to like from an institution that asked you to do something like that. Those are the things that make the most difference. I have seen constituent contact move mountains. And so, so just know that that is really, really important. And you can do it often, early and often, in all the ways. So the next slide we have, Liz, is now do this again, but call your legislator. And we're not going to take time to do that together here, but we will give you this resource of how you look up your legislator if you don't have that at the ready. And this particular slide has talking points about data centers. Where we are in this data center moment is needing to show our legislators that that we're dissatisfied with the status quo. If in fact you feel the same as I do, you know, if it doesn't seem right that Amazon, which wants to build a huge data center up in Becker with 250 diesel generators as backup power, if it doesn't feel right that they should have tax exemptions on their electricity and hardware and software, but they should have instead some guardrails around the environments and communities they're around, we need to make that known right now. And even though I don't have a bill that I want you to call and say, support this number right now, the calls that you make or the contacts you make prime the pump for this legislation, which is going to come out next week. So this is a great topic for you to do tomorrow. You get this email and call your state senator and call your state representative and let them know how you feel. And there's some talking points on this slide as well. So thank you so much for going through that. I'm open anytime you want to send me an email, a call with a question, work together on strategy to move a legislator. I'll tell you that the nuclear issue, if anyone is, I heard some passion about that one earlier today, and Liz is going to come in with some asks, but we have this awesome fact sheet. And what I'd really love is someone who didn't look like me. And what I mean by that is like, they know I work for an organization, but if someone who looked like a citizen went around and dropped that flyer off in every mailbox in the Senate and every in the House, if you're interested in taking that up, we will get you we will get you the flyers because we need to show the support, the legislators who want to push back on this, that they have our support, that there are people out there that aren't for repealing the nuclear moratorium. If that's the way you feel. So thanks so much. And I'll put my info in the chat.
Sara, I cannot thank you enough. That was extraordinary in every way. It's an expert level class on how policy analysis can change outcomes. And I got so excited because, oh my gosh, if somebody actually dropped those flyers, it would be a game changer. We take these actions that to us might seem small and to legislators are paradigm shifting. So I can promise, if after doing this tonight, if you found 3 people from your community to make a call to the governor and lieutenant governor about wild rice, it would completely shift the political landscape that we're navigating at the Capitol. If if you made a call about data centers and found 3 people you know to make that call with you, it takes 3 minutes, we would completely shift the political landscape that we're navigating when we go to do the advocacy around what bills get passed and why. So one of my favorite things about community organizing, and one of the most transformative things about community organizing, is that these small concrete acts that we take, when we take them together, actually change the world and actually change our lives. It is magic. And we have it at our fingertips all the time. So it's an honor to be here tonight with you, figuring out how, not just how we do this, but that we're able to do it together. So I hope you can feel in my voice, not just the excitement, but the passion I have for these small daily acts that completely shift the set of possibilities that we're going to live into and that our children are going to live into. So with that, my job right now is to wrap us up and send us on our way. You are going to receive a recap email with all of this. I'm going to do a whole Google Doc with headings and links, and everything we talked about will be there so that you can use it as a toolkit. We also have 3 more action asks. I'm going to flash them on the screen. I'm not expecting for you to process them right now or go do them right now. What I'm hoping is that if I talk to you about them right now, when you see them in the email, you'll be like, oh, I can do that. Action is fun and meaningful, which if you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be here. I know all of you are spending your Thursday night on this webinar because you believe action is fun and meaningful. But my hope is that when you see my email, you will remember that you believe it and do these things. Haha. So here are our action tidbits in addition to the calls that we just did together. The first is this is a QR code that you can use, or a URL at the bottom that you can use to anytime, anywhere, contact your legislators to let them know that you support the Wild Rice Act. And that's the actual piece of legislation that's going to ensure that wild rice has rights and protection under Minnesota state law, no matter what regulatory mishigas comes our way, because it grants inherent rights to wild rice as a species with its own dignity and own state of being. So just to say one more thing about that, usually in environmental policy, we say, oh, well, you shouldn't do harm to wild rice because there's a public benefit, or the harms outweigh the profit, or we make this analysis that says human needs come first. And if what we're trying to do to the rice would be really, really bad, maybe we shouldn't do it. This bill changes that entire legal calculation so that wild rice itself is protected with inherent rights, and that respect for the ecosystem is in partnership with human needs. So you can't just regulate your way over the rice. The rice has its own legal standing, and that's an indigenous worldview that we're importing into, granted, a colonial frame. It is imperfect, but it is a game changer. So you'll get this action item where anytime you and all of your friends can specifically ask your legislator to support the bill that would make this possible. That's action 1. Action 2, da-da-da-da, totally different thing. You may have heard that insurance is becoming so expensive that regular people often can't access it for their homes, or if you're a renter, it's increasing your rent because the people who own properties are adjusting for rising interest rates. So interest rates and housing costs are tied, and interest rates are going up because of climate crisis and because of environmental degradation. So we need to share the stories of how interest rates are impacting people with the Department of Commerce so that we can take action to make it possible for the insurance industry to take climate impact into account in its financial calculations, which actually means that we'd have to consider that it might be a bad idea to wreck the planet if you want to be able to have people in stable homes that have insurance. So super technical. I was trying to boil it down. I'm a little clumsy with it. Sara and Patricia Torres-Ray can talk about this for hours, but it's this wonky thing that actually is a way in for climate justice. So that's action number 2, share your insurance stories, fun times. And then action 3, da, 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 da. Where is my slide? We really, really need you to become a sustaining donor of MNIPL. Many people on this call already give to MNIPL. Some of us have access to financial resources and some of us don't. We live in an unfair system that's exploiting a lot of us. But if you do have access to financial resources, I'm trying to find the words in real time. I can't even tell you how much it means to us when you become a sustaining donor, because we can plan then on having a budget that supports this work. And we're in a moment where federal funding is gone, and the type of support we used to be able to expect from institutions is gone. So we're going to have to do it for ourselves like we always have it at the grassroots level. And so again, for those of us where money is tight, I get that. But for those of us who have a little more and we could give now, everyone always says when they ask for money, now is the time. Friends, now is the time. And one-time gifts are amazing, but when you become a sustaining donor with a gift of any amount that's meaningful to you on a monthly basis, it means we can plan for the future. And instead of spending our time doing fundraising, we can spend our time at the legislature, and we can spend our time in community, and we can spend our time listening and dreaming together. So thank you to each of you who has given, and we really need you to give more if you can. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, I can see all your faces again. It's so lovely. I'm going to check my little agenda, and I'll end with this. We have heard a lot tonight. We've actually gone through a lot together tonight. And my hope is that you will take action and that you will ask 3 people you know to take action. And conversation by conversation and person by person, we are going to shift the horizon for our communities. I know it's possible. I've witnessed it being possible in my lifetime. Many of you have been in the struggle for far longer than I have. We come from ancestors who have faced hard times before us, who know that we not only survive, but we survive towards our shared liberation. And so I'm just so grateful and so proud to be part of this with all of you. If you want help organizing your community, if you want help figuring out the next step, call me, call Sara. Claire, if you could put my email into the chat, that would be glorious. You're all going to get the recap email with all of the information. And we have 2 minutes before, time is a fiction and a construct, and it's also the mechanism that we use to plan our evening. So I'm actually going to let you go at 8:15. I'll play some music on our way out. So if people want to say things in the chat, if they want to offer reflections in the chat, we can kind of ease our way out. But we have 2 minutes before 8:15. Does anyone have a last word or a question or a reflection before we go? Paula, yay!
I'll interject one thing that I need to learn more of, and this, we don't want to get back into a whole discussion about data centers, but I don't even really know what the heck they're for. Why do we need them? Why do we need the energy hogs? Yeah.
We should do a whole webinar on this. I'm going to talk to Sara about it. The quick answer is a bunch of folks are trying to make a fortune on what is roughly and vaguely called artificial intelligence. And those large-scale learning models require enormous physical computing to be possible. That takes acres of land and gob millions gallons of water and energy uses to provide one Google search so that you can have an AI generated answer at the top instead of clicking on the websites. That's a slightly snarky answer, but it's sort of the conclusion.
And it's not about cryptocurrency in this case. Correct?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, yes, we should get into that, Paula. All right, friends. I am thankful for each of you. There will be so much more to come. I'm going to play a song. This is by Joy Aladukin. And we'll just ease our way out. Please feel free to write anything in the chat. I can't wait to see you all again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Why is my screen not working?